Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. It has been a while. It has been, I think, about 5 months since I last posted a video or on this channel or on my Bookstagram. I kind of went off of social media related to like my book stuff. I'm back. I'm so happy to be back. So many things have happened. So many things have changed. And honestly, I feel like in general, I'm just in a better headspace. I'm in a better environment. I feel better. So yeah, before I get on into kind of the main point of this video, I wanted to kind of point out a few things that are obvious. Number one, I'm in a new location. I moved out of the living situation that I was living last time. You saw me in May. I actually moved probably the end of June, beginning of July, so like right before my birthday. I moved back in with my parents. I was still living, I was living with another family member, but now I'm living with my mom, my stepdad, and my little brother. Honestly, the only reason why I wasn't posting was because I really wasn't motivated to be reading. There was obviously a lot of things that were going on in the world, and there are still a lot of things going on in the world. And I personally felt like not motivated because I was getting into these weird like funks. Well, I just, like I said, I really wasn't reading and I felt guilty about that. Like the beginning of 2020, I was reading 12, 9, whatever amount of books, which was crazy for me. And then I kind of just stopped. I would pick up a book occasionally. I would read here and there, but I honestly just wasn't motivated. And I've been getting back into that because I love reading, and reading has been with me my entire life, and it's like, you know, your escape. So it's weird that it was weird for me that I wasn't using my books to be a real escape to everything that was happening. I wanted to start the new year off with a new version. It's still the same ideas of my TBR trouble, which this is now a new board. It's the same board. Because I found in my few months, if you have never seen my channel before, I actually had 2 TBR games. Originally I had TBR Pursuit and I liked it, but I just didn't feel great about it. So I started TBR Trouble, and I want to say March, so I did it for 3 months and I really loved it, but I just wanted to change it up a little bit because I noticed, because there was only 4 colors, that I was trying to land on the 2 that I wanted to read, and I just was like, I need to change this up and add a little bit more spice. And then I was like, do I want to just start a whole new TBR game? I didn't really want to do that. I was debating on doing like a book, the Becca's Bookopoly board, but I just didn't want to do it because I wanted it to, like, you know, be my own idea. But I'm really excited with how this turned out. So it's kind of a variation of like a Monopoly meets TBR Trouble with the way that kind of she had the spaces. So I ended up making the 4 spaces into, I think that there's 16 spaces on here now, instead of the 4. So I will show you the new board, but the basis of it is still same. We'll roll the ball in the middle. Whatever color I land on will be the specific prompt. So for instance, if I landed on orange, that is fantasy. I would have to read a fantasy book. Then depending on the number that I roll, I will pick a specific cup. I have cups from 1 to 6 because there are 6, but number 5, if I roll 5, I get to pick whichever cup I want. So it'll be the same. If I land on the roll again area, which I will show you then, I will do the taking both of the numbers and dividing them by 2 and then picking the cup. If I get a 3.5, I will pick one from a 3 and I will pick the one from 4. So I will have to have a double prompt. So that kind of will suck. Maybe it'll work, maybe it won't. We'll kind of see. I used to do that. I think I had 1 or 2. It just kind of makes picking the books a little bit harder. But I thought that would be fun. So again, I'll really quickly kind of go through the cups and what they are. If I roll a 1, I will pick from this mug, and this will be the type of book. So it won't be the genre, but it will be like short book, long book. It has to be a audiobook, an ebook, a new release, whatever, kind of something like that. Roll number 2, I will pick from this one, and that is the book trope or the kind of theme that is in there. So it could be a bad boy theme, it could be the broken family, it could be the golden trio, it could be magic school, like kind of like a common theme that a lot of books have. that will be the book that I will choose. Roll a 3, I will pick from this one, which is the setting. So it's just the setting. It can be set in a school, set in a different country, in a different realm, a different era. Set during winter, during summer, in a vacation, in a city, small town, kind of things like that. If I roll a 4, that will be something that has to be on the cover. So it could be something with the title, something with the color, something with the picture, etc. Kind of things like that. Like I said, if I roll a number 5, I get to choose whichever cup I want. And lastly, we have 6, which is kind of just a random thing. So it could be like something with the characters. It could be something completely random. It could be like a prompt like, read a book in a city that I want to travel to. Read a book that the character has a specific ability. Kind of things like that. So when it comes to how many rolls or how many books I'm going to read a month, I decided to go with 4 because I think that's a great number to start with. The only way that I can add on a book is if I roll the same number 3 times. It doesn't have to be in a row. It just has to be 3 times. Yeah, let me just stop talking so I can show you kind of the spaces on the board, and then we can get on with the rolling. Okay, so starting from this corner, we have right here, we have the 2 biggest ones that you'll see around the board because those are the 2 biggest genres that I tend to read from. So in the red, we have contemporary romance. So that can be a contemporary romance, that can be just a contemporary, or that could be a romance, depending on what I choose. The orange here is a fantasy. I didn't put YA or adult because I just wanted to kind of leave it open to kind of how I'm feeling. This purple right here is middle grade. As you see, there's a little backpack here, so middle grade. Right here we have LGBTQ plus representation, so that's pretty self-explanatory as well. Then we go back to the main one, which is the contemporary romance and fantasy. So like I said, fantasy is over here. On this side we have magical realism, so that one is a little bit more of a classification, but I felt like this would be a fun one to include. Right here we have a little picture of me because if I land on this one, I get to pick. So it's whatever genre that I want, I get to choose. And we have the contemporary romance again back here. We have the contemporary romance again, which then brings us back to fantasy over here. This other blue one we have is graphic novels. I just put graphic novels because that is more what I like to read, as well as maybe I will put in manga or a comic book, but for the most part I tend to read graphic novels, so I just wanted to put that one in there. This green one next to it with a little feather is historical fiction. Again, a little bit more of classification, because I do like historical fiction as well, but it doesn't have to be a fantasy to be a historical fiction. It could be kind of like a historical fiction romance or classic or whatever I kind of choose that way. Which then brings us to contemporary romance again. Like I said, the contemporary romance and fantasy are the 2 that are on here 4 times because those are the biggest ones. Last side again, we have fantasy. Yellow over here is mystery. Again, I didn't put like, it could be anything from middle grade mystery to adult mystery or YA mystery. It kind of just depends on how I'm feeling or what I have that I want to read. And then we have another picture of me for another I pick. I decided to put it on there twice because I tend to be kind of a mood reader, so I felt like putting these on here twice would kind of be a nice thing to have. And then we again have the go back to the contemporary and the romance. Now I do want to say that on the normal trouble board, there on the 4 kind of in-betweens over here, we have, I don't know if you can see, but there is like silver Sharpie. That represents the roll again. So if I land on this, kind of similar to how I had it last time, I will have to roll again, and I will take both of those numbers from the first and the second roll, and I will divide them by 2, and then that will be the kind of cup that I choose. So the color I'm choosing today to use is the color green. Now I am going to start on a green because I figured that would be the easiest way to go about it. So we either have historical fiction or magical realism. So I'm just going to start with historical fiction because that is what is in front of me. So let's start with roll number 1. We have a 1, which means I have to roll again. 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So we have a contemporary romance. Roll number 1, we first got a 1, which brought us to the roll again section. So I rolled again and got a 4, and so we went to the contemporary romance. So like I said, because I rolled twice, I'm going to take 4 plus 1, which is 5, divided by 2, which is 2.5. So for this one, I have to choose from the 2 and the 3, which is a trope. I'm hoping it's good to me for a contemporary romance. Oh my god, that is great. We got, let me do like a beauty guru, bad boy. Okay, so now we're going to pick from the setting, which this one can kind of screw it up. Okay, this one I can deal with. This one is city, so it has to be a bad boy, but it takes place in the city. Okay, this is actually good. I recently picked this up a few months ago, and this is called Bad Bachelor, and this is by Stephanie London. So this is about, it takes place, I believe, in New York, and there is a app called the Bad Bachelors, which I don't really know. It doesn't really go into detail what this is, but I'm assuming it is just an app that ranks like all of the Bad Bachelors. And so Reed is a PR whiz, so he strolls into Darcy Greer's workplace office, offering to save the struggling library, but she isn't buying it. So she works with him reluctantly. And then obviously I feel like this is going to be like a hate to love relationship. But I was really excited about it when I saw this because I thought that this cover was really cute, and I had never heard of this author before. So that one actually really works because it takes place in Manhattan, in New York City, as well as we have the Bad Bachelor, which I'm assuming that he is considered a bad bachelor because he is considered like a bad boy. So I'm going to say that this one works. So I'm very excited to read this one. This one will be a nice book to kind of start with. Roll number 2. We have a 6, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We have a fantasy. Roll number 2, we got a 6, which brought us into fantasy. So I will be picking from the random cup. So let's see. The one I picked was a new author, and honestly that is not even hard because a lot of these books on my shelves are a new author. Book has been on my shelf for a really long time, and that is The Crown's Game by Evelyn Skye. And this book is a like Russian inspired, I don't know if it's inspired by Russian mythology or it just takes place in Russia during the Ottoman Empire, and there has to deal with something called The Crown's Game. I feel like I like books that have to deal with kind of like a game or like a competition, so I'm actually gonna go with this one. I've had this for probably like a year or two. I got it on Book Outlet, but I'm just gonna get this one because it has been on my bookshelf the longest, and I feel like that one will be a great fantasy to kind of ease into because I haven't read a fantasy in a while. Roll number 3. We have another 1, which means another contemporary romance. Okay, so roll number 3, we got a 1, which brought us back to contemporary romance. So we're going to kind of find out the book type, if you will, that I will be reading. I am glad that I have 2 contemporary romances so far because those ones are pretty easy for me to read and kind of get into. We're going to pick this one. It's like really tinily, like folded. Debut book. Picked this up the last time I was at Barnes & Noble, which was, I want to say, like a week before Christmas, because I really wanted to find some Christmassy books as I was planning on reading and I didn't. And I saw this one, and I believe in the back it says that it's a delightful debut. So this is a debut book, and this is called The Tourist Attraction by Sarah Morgenthaler. And first of all, this book cover is so freaking adorable. But basically it is about a guy named Graham Barnett who named his diner the Tourist Trap, which he meant as a joke, but now it is like a huge like tourist spot. And the other character, which is Zoe Caldwell, and on the top of her bucket list, or the whole bucket list, is to spend 2 weeks in Alaska. And she kind of immediately falls in love with it, and they somehow stumble into each other, and obviously they're probably gonna whatever. But I thought this was so unique because first of all, it takes place in Alaska, which I've never been to Alaska, but that sounds pretty cool. But also, like, I feel like that's such a unique kind of like plot line, like taking place at like a touristy. It honestly kind of reminds, like, my grandma would love this because she loves like Hallmark movies. I'm not a big fan of Hallmark movies, which is funny because I love like contemporary romances, but I don't like Hallmark movies. So I felt like that this would be a great version of a Hallmark movie that I could read, because it definitely screams Hallmark. And finally, roll number 4 is a 2. 1, 2. We have the LGBTQ plus representation. So the last roll I got was a roll 2, and that brought us to one of our new categories, which is the LGBTQ plus category representation, which I'm very excited about that. I'm gonna choose this one. Okay, so we have Fake Dating, Red, White, and Royal Blue by Casey McQuiston. Yeah, I haven't read this book. I'm really behind on a lot of things. But basically, from what I know about this book is that it has to deal with, I think, 2 princes? No. So the first one is, the first character is Alex Claremont Diaz, whose mother just became the president of the United States. So he was cast as the American equivalent of a young royal, but he has a problem. He has beef with an actual prince. His name is Henry, and Henry and Alex have an altercation. So the kind of relations between the US and the UK kind of become like really bad. Okay, so it's a little bit of a stretch because it says fake dating. And I'm going to stretch this because they start, basically the 2 heads of the president's cabinet and like kind of the royal family in the UK. They basically make these 2 start to be like basically best friends or fake friends. And it honestly kind of grows and more dangerous. And then they kind of start going into a secret romance. A lot of people have loved this, and I know I'm going to love it too. The other one that, would have fit perfectly for this is a book I've already read, which is called, Boyfriend Material by Alexis Hall. I found this one day. I think I bought it the same day that I bought this, which honestly, that is so funny. Like, So for sure, if you liked this book, I haven't even read this book yet, but I already know like the gist of it. If you liked this book, you would 100% like this book, and I'm hoping vice versa. So this book is basically, takes place in the UK, which I love reading books that take place in London because I was going to school in London for a few months for a study abroad program, and I know that is what my end goal is going to be. I'm going to school in graduate school now to be a study abroad coordinator. So I know my end goal is to be in London. So like for me, reading anything that has to do with London is like I need to absorb all that material. So this is about a boy named Luke O'Donnell, and he is very famous, but not because of what he did. His dad is a really famous rock star, but his dad has not even been in his life. So even though his dad's not in his life, he has kind of suffered the repercussions of his dad's stardom, and he's kind of always up and down spiraling. And he ends up, there's a situation that happens in the beginning of the book, and there is a compromising photo taken of him. So he is now in jeopardy of losing a lot of things. He has to clean up his image, and one of them being that he's not a partier and he's not a, you know, playboy. He has to find a boyfriend, so he meets a guy named Oliver Blackwood, who is a barrister. When I first read this, I thought this said barista. Apparently I can't read. He is a barrister, as well as he is a ethical vegetarian, and so they basically kind of strike a deal to fake date, and that obviously never works out. And as you can see of all my tabbies, I loved this book so much, and I really honestly want more. I wish that there was another book, because this is just an amazing book and I loved it. So I'm hoping because I loved that, I will love this. So these are the 4 books that I need to read this month, and I think I can do it because one of them is fantasy and the other 3 are contemporary romance, which I'm not mad about that at all. I am so excited. I just think that this will be a great way to start my reading. And I definitely think I can crush these this month. So I am very excited about that. If you enjoyed this video, please make sure to subscribe to my channel if you want to see more videos from me in the future. As well as if you liked this TBR game that I've created, I will put a playlist up on the screen for you to click of my other ones. And yeah, I will see you guys in my next video. Bye.